Hi guys, this is Donna with Love Rocks, and we're back this week with a new Valentine gnome, and it's a little bit different than the one we did last year, so I hope you enjoy. If you are new to the channel, we give away all of our tutorial rocks. The way to get into the free drawing is you have to subscribe to the channel and then leave a comment below this video. The drawing will be done in about a week, and I'll put the date under this video in the description. So here we go, let's get started. This is a rock that I found on our property, and it wound up being a really good rock. It nice and smooth, not too porous, and I like how dark it is. I did, when I wash it, before I started, I did see how dark it was going to be, and it was going to be perfect for the colors that I picked out. So the colors that I went are pretty light. I wanted them to be fairly light colored because with Valentine, I just wanted some nice, pretty, soft pastel colors. So I think that this is going to be the perfect color of rock once we spray it. If you're new to this hobby or this channel, either one, doesn't matter. One of the things that you want to take into consideration when you're looking at your rocks is make sure you know what color it's going to be when you spray it, when you seal it at the end. I have screwed up several rocks because I thought that they were going to seal a little bit darker or a little bit lighter than what they did. And once they get sealed, it changes the color of the rock, it changes the color of the paint a little bit, and you could lose your picture back into the rock. It blends too much, and there's no pop. There's no differentiating between what's rock and what's your picture. So if you've done it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, I'm sure you will experience it eventually. But one of the things that I do is I really take into consideration what that looks like when I wash them. I wash them real good, and when they're wet, you can tell what they're going to look like once they've been sprayed. With this particular rock, again, it wasn't too porous, and so I didn't have to do any prep on it before I started painting. But again, if you are new to this hobby, if you have a rock that's really porous, if you have one that you think is going to be hard to get nice smooth lines on, then you can always do a light spray of your sealer before you start. What that does is it kind of takes away from the rock's porousness of pulling those paints down inside the crevices of the rock, and it takes away some of the smaller crevices. This allows your paint to go on smoother. It allows you to have more control of where the lines are going to be. It doesn't seem to follow the edges of the holes and stuff as easily while you're trying to paint, so you don't wind up having paint going out of control. You wind up with full control of it. And I've done it a few times and it's worked out really well. I have not done it a few times and it's worked out poorly. So just kind of get used to the rocks and what happens to them when you're painting them. You'll start picking up real easily which rocks you need to spray prior to painting and which ones you don't. So we used baby pink as the base color of this hat. I like that color because, you want your shadow to go down a couple of shades, and you want your highlights to go up a couple of shades. And baby pink's really easy. I can go up using white. I can go down using the engine red with a little bit of white put in it to lighten it down a little bit. And it's perfect shading for that baby pink. You can use any light pink and any dark pink that you have along with the white. This just happens to be colors that I have and colors I've used before, and I like being able to use colors that I'm familiar with. Each one of those folds on the hat and each one of those bumps on the hat are going to need some shading and some highlight. That's what gives you that look of proportion and roundness. Instead of having a 1D flat surface sticking on a rock, you actually have something that looks like it is coming off of the rock and there's some depth to it. And you just have to keep in mind each one of those areas and how they go back into the hat and they cause that ripple. And just keep in mind that, the back of that ripple, no sunlight's going to get in there, no light's going to get in there. So that's going to be where your darks are going to be. And then as you're coming away from that line is how you're going to lighten that up all the way back to the baby pink. Then up over the top of that ripple is where you're going to go from the baby pink to the white. And that's going to go all the way around until you hit another ripple. And then you're going to fade back into a shadow, and then you're going to come back out of the shadow. If you take your time and you think about it, eventually it just starts happening. You just start doing it without thinking about it. And it does take some time. I've been painting years, and it's still, there's times when I look at something and I'm like, something's not right. And I will sit there and look at it until I figure out which piece of it I have missed. And I miss the mark sometimes. Sometimes I miss the mark of getting a highlight in or a shadow in. But your eye's going to start telling you, it's going to train. It's going to start telling you something's not right there. The nose, we use 3 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4. We use 4 colors. So the base color of the nose is going to be camel and baby pink. That gives you a nice skin tone. Then around the edges and around the bottom where you're going to have the shading, I put in a little bit of red. That will darken that and shadow that. And then at the top, I take the white. I really get it wet, almost, I've talked about this in other ones, almost like a watercolor painting. I get it that wet, and I barely put it in there, and then I work it around until I get it to look like it's definitely a highlight on that edge of that top of the nose. You'll notice that sometimes I'll jump back and forth between things. There's 2 reasons for that. One is if I need something to dry. So in this particular spot, I needed to give that nose a couple of seconds there and let it dry. It was too wet to start working the shadow in and the highlight. And because of that, I went back to the hat. The second thing is, sometimes it will feel to me like an object is done, such as the hat or the nose or the beard. And while I'm working on something else, then it'll catch my eye, and finally I'll be like, oh, that's what it's missing. The highlight's not in the right place, or it doesn't have enough highlight, or it doesn't have enough shadow, or that didn't mix, it didn't blend very well. So it's usually one of those reasons is why I have jumped back and forth between things. I really try not to jump back and forth too much when I'm doing tutorials. I don't want it to confuse people. But those are the 2 reasons that I do it, is either I just noticed something that I didn't notice before, or I'm trying to let one piece dry while I'm working on another piece. You're going to notice that nose is going to start getting lost in that hat. Basically, we used all the same colors, varying amounts of each color, but we used the same colors. So it only makes sense that we would lose it. So I'm going to go back in there, and I'm going to try to get a little bit of shadow in there. Now, if you look, I actually used black to shadow that in, but that's because I'm going to bring that beard in there. And because I'm going to use that beard, I can get away with putting some black in there. Now, I'm going to thin that out as much as possible, and I'm going to shadow the bottom of that hat. Right now it looks pretty stark, but when we're done, you'll see that it really is okay. It doesn't stand out too much. But if you do not darken that up between the nose and the hat, you're going to lose the nose. Now, I know the camera set up kind of weird, so it's hard to see what I'm doing. I made 2 dots next to each other of red. Then I take my lining brush and I pull them down in a V. That's how I make my little tiny hearts. And it's literally that easy. Remember, you don't have to have a dotting tool in order to do dots. You can do this with anything. You can do it with the eraser of a pencil. You can do it with anything that's got a small end to it. Chopsticks work wonderful. You can use the end of them and they make nice dots. Now we're going to put in the shoes, and the reason we're putting in the shoes next is I want to get the shoes, the arms, the hands all in place, and I want them to be fairly finished, but I also want them to be fairly dry before I start putting that beard in. Beards are funny. They are easy. They are fast. But you have to think it out a little bit before you put in a gnome beard. Here's why. You need to think about what you want the beard to lay on top of and what you want to lay on top of the beard. I've done some objects that I wanted them to be holding and the beard lay on top of it. And then I've done other objects that I want the beard in and I want them to have something on top of the beard. I've done both ways. So you just have to understand in your head what it is you're going to do. I had one painting, I think it was the Viking painting, that I did both. They had to have something under the beard and something on top of the beard. When doing that, you just have to think it out ahead and make sure that whatever objects are going to be covered with the beard, get them in, get them the way you want them, let them dry completely, then move on to the beard. Otherwise, you're going to have so much blending that it's going to mess up your picture. And, you don't want to get to that point of your painting and mess it up, and then you'll be frustrated and not want to do gnomes anymore. And gnomes are so much fun to do. Don't forget with those arms and the hands, which are going to be in a glove, that you're going to want to get some shadows on them. And I will tell you, the arm that is bent with the envelope got a little wide on me. I didn't mean to get it that wide, but that beard's going to cover it up. So when I first did it, I was like, I may have to do something with this. But then I realized, you know what? The beard's going to go on top of that. So it's okay. We're gonna make that work. So here's a situation where the beard is going to go on top of the arms, but then the heart is going to go on top of the beard. Okay, so I always put a layer of something down, whatever you want your background to be. And most of the time, the easiest background is a light gray. The white will show up on it, the black's going to show up on it, and And then that'll be your shadowing back behind it, you know, your filler. So I usually go with a gray. Lighter, darker, doesn't matter. You just don't want rock to be back there. And this is so when you're putting in that hair, you have something behind it. And so when you get done, if you really look at the gnomes and their hair, there's about 4 layers, 5 layers of hair there, because you've got that back one, then you put in, you know, your individual white, and then you do black, and then you do white on top of it again. And then I'll go over it one more time with some little tiny little splashes of black. And that gives you all of those layers of hair so that there's a full beard there with various colors. Next, we're going to do the envelope. Remember when you're doing this envelope that he's holding it. He's holding it with that arm or that hand, and when you hold something, the thumb has to be in front. You can't just hold it flat-handed. You got to have that thumb. So if the white gets on the thumb a little bit, that's okay. Get your lines in nice and straight. In the very end, you can go back and put that thumb back in, but make sure you get that thumb in there. And this is an adorable little envelope. We're going to do a little bit of stitching around the edges with some red and stuff, and it'll look cute. Now, I like to have a mustache and a beard. You can do it the way you want it. So I like to start off putting in a mustache in my multiple layers, and then I'm going to do the beard. And no beard is perfect. So you're gonna have little hairs going out and in and over his feet and on an arm, and that's the way it should be. You want to be able to see some abnormalities. Gnome beards are not perfect. So you want little stray hairs going here and there. Where the beard separates right under the nose, the mustache separates right under the nose, and then comes down and starts the beard, but the center of the nose, you'll notice I try to keep that a little bit darker. There needs to be a shadow there where you can see that the mustache lays on top of the beard. And I'll work that 2 or 3 times and make sure that I got that in there. Again, you're seeing that I skipped back and forth between the envelope. That is because the first layer of that envelope was pretty wet. So I needed some time to let it dry a little bit. So I went over and worked on the beard. Then we're going to go back and we're going to work on the envelope. Now that the envelope has been put in and it's fairly dry, I'm just making sure that all the edges are square, or as square as I can on a rough rock. Now we're going to go back, work on that beard a little bit more. And you'll see what I mean by putting in layers. And there's me darkening up a little bit between the mustache and the beard. Are you starting to see that the mustache is above the beard? The beard lays up underneath the mustache. And you did all of that by just putting in some extra dark right there. And you'll see that I actually was able to get some of the little wisps up by his hat. And we're just putting a little bit of red marks across this envelope to make it look cute. That's looks like where it's been put together. And then we're going to put a heart right there where the envelope is. Again, using the dotting tool, 2 small dots next to each other. Then we'll take the lining brush and we're going to pull those down into a V. And it makes a nice little heart. Work on that glove a little bit. All of those objects have to have highlights and shadows in order to make them appear to be round, appear to have not laying flat on a surface. You want dimension and you want it to look like its fullness and that it's real. When you first start doing gnomes, you're going to tend to overwork that beard. It's okay. I had that trouble when I first started as well. But after a while, you realize, you know what? I can still get in what I need without overworking it. And it's just about layering. And you'll see how cute those shoes look underneath that hair. I was losing a little bit of the edge. That's why I went back in with a tiny bit of black on the bottom of those shoes, just to give it some shadow. Okay, did you see me touch it there? That's because I was making sure that beard was dry before I decided to pencil in the heart that we're going to put in. When I'm doing these paintings, it's hard for me to stop and let something completely dry and then start painting again and start videoing again. And so I tend to try to let things dry as quickly as possible while I'm painting, while the video's running. I like to take it all in one set and not have to stop and piece a whole bunch of videos together. So when you're doing it at home, if you need to stop and let something dry, do it. When I'm doing tutorials, it's a little bit harder to do that. Decided to make this heart red. There were so many pinks and whites in this picture that I figure making it red would be perfect. It'll offset the tiny bit of red that we have on the other side of the picture, which is the envelope detail. And we'll give it a little bit of highlight and give it a little bit of shadow on the bottom. I hope you're enjoying this. Please, I ask if you would like to support this channel, share it on social media with other people that you know either like the hobby of rock painting or might like the rock painting hobby, or they might just like to watch people paint. But sharing my videos with others on social media is probably the biggest help that you could do for me. I would really appreciate that. Our channel is growing quickly, but it's because the people are sharing these videos. So I really appreciate it if you've already done that. If not, I would love for you to share my video with as many people as possible. I will tell you, after I sprayed this rock, that heart didn't stand out as much as I wanted it to. I did have to go in. I don't have it on this video. You'll be able to see it in the picture of the rock when it's done. But I did go in and put a tiny bit more dark on the top of that heart. I don't know why, but it really, after I put the highlights in it, I started to lose it in the beard, against that arm, everything. And that's just something that when you get done with a picture, you have to look at it and say, okay, is everything where I need it to be? Is there anything that, you know, is fading into something else? And can I, you know, fix that? Is that something that can easily be fixed? And sometimes they look fine until you start to seal them. And then once you put the sealer on, all of a sudden that's when you start seeing a problem here or there. So that's why you're not going to see it on the video. I actually put the first layer of sealer on and realized that it was blending in, so I had to add a little bit. And that's okay. You can add paint on top of sealer as long as you put a couple of layers of sealer over the top of it after you're done. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. This was a little bit different than any of the other ones that I've done, and it was really a lot of fun. I love to do gnomes. I hope you enjoy gnomes, and I hope that you get some Valentine rocks out there. I am a little short on hiding rocks for Valentine, so that is going to be, I think the next video is to how to do some quick, easy, fun, pretty Valentine hiding rocks. Please come back and watch that if that interests you. I should have it out in another week or so. I'll try to have, I don't know, a couple of different ideas. And that way you can get out there and do some rock hiding. With it being winter and us having so much snow, I have not been able to hide as many rocks as I do definitely in the summertime or even in the spring. It's kind of a family thing around here. I give the rocks to my grandkids and my daughter, my husband, anybody that's going to be traveling, and have them drop them off different places as they're going through different places as they travel, you know, towns, cities, states, it doesn't matter to me. I just like to have them dropped off. People enjoy them. Please, if you haven't already subscribed and commented below this, please do, so that you can be put into the drawing. I'm trying to get a rock out, or a rock video out. I'm trying every week, but it's probably closer to about every 10 days I'm getting a video out. I always love the springtime because the rocks are so much prettier than all the dark colors we use in the winter. There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, thank you for coming to the channel, and we'll see you soon.